automotive world is wondering what's under the hood of the hottest racing game ever. That's what one magazine called Gran Turismo from Sony Computer Entertainment Incorporated. We went across the Pacific to give PlayStation Underground members a sneak peek. Finding the development team wasn't hard. Most of the members barely get out of the office. Many have been working on this title exclusively for 2 to 3 years.
Compared to others, I get to go home more often. Although in most cases, I just go there to take a shower.
I went home 2 days ago. I usually go home twice a week. I've been planning this game for 6 years, but there was no technology right for it until Sony released the PlayStation. At that point, I felt very lucky. We assembled this team as we created MotorTune 1 and 2. Those games were experiments for certain features in Gran Turismo. I wanted to make the ultimate racing game for motorsports and automobile culture. It has over 120 real cars with dozens of customization options in 8 different categories. 11 racing tracks are included.
I did the main programming. We take car physics to a new level. For example, if you make a minor adjustment in suspension, a car tilts differently in the corners. Each car is modeled to handle just like its real-life counterpart. We measured and simulated to the degree of millimeters. I know of no other racing game that has gone this far.
My job was adding reflections to the cars that appear to occur in real time, using environmental mapping technology. There are tons of racing games out there, but they have just pictures of cars. I think ours is the first one where you get the feeling that the actual car is there in the game.
My partner and I are responsible for capturing the car sounds. We needed the real sound of different cars and recorded over 40. I was the one who got into the passenger seat with the DAT recorder and the microphones. I've probably done close to 200 laps on the speedway.
The big challenge was where to put the microphones. One went inside the hood, the other went in the trunk, as close to the exhaust pipe as possible.
I put the best car I ever owned in the game. I bought it just after college, a Nissan R32 Skyline GTR. Unfortunately, in real life my car passed away after a huge crash. I feel like crying when I see it in the game. I was taking a turn at 130 miles per hour and tail slid 300 to 400 yards, bouncing rail to rail. When I finally stopped, the entire piece of the car in front of me was gone.
I don't have a car now, but the great thing about this game is you can try out lots of cars and decide what you want. It's a simulator for car buyers.
That's what's happening behind the scenes of Gran Turismo.
そうですね。日本では例えばレーシングドライバーになりたいっていう夢っていうのは。
I've always loved cars. As a child, I dreamed of being a race car driver, but that's even less likely in Japan than it is in North America or Europe.
それはね、本当にこのグランツーリスモね。
I created Gran Turismo because I always wanted to work with cars. I didn't expect the game to sell as well as it did. It has a real driving feel and graphics very close to reality. Those things didn't really exist in the racing genre until then. I made the first Gran Turismo for Japan with mostly Japanese cars. I'm making Gran Turismo 2 for the world. We're going to have about 400 cars on 20 tracks. We brought some of the cars here to test them and capture photos and sound. My goal is that each user everywhere can actually drive the car that you own or want to buy, or just admire and will never be able to purchase. I want the owner of a car to feel that driving the car in the game is exactly like driving the car on the road.
I create the car from start to finish. Today I took photographs from all angles to record details like tires, headlights, and hazard lights, so I can reproduce these cars exactly. I get the plans, performance data, and all the color samples from the manufacturer and apply them to the model. It takes about a week to make a car for the game. If there are problems, it could take a month.
In GT1, I didn't want cars to spin when they collided so that you could keep playing the game. But gamers told me they want damage. GT2 will have an option for car damage. If you choose it and your car is hit, it will spin or become tougher to handle. But the damage will just affect how the car handles, not how it looks. One very important change is that we are going to have dirt tracks. The cars will be able to skid around. Also, there will be some drag strips. And Laguna Seca will be one of the tracks.
Our job is course design. We draw the course line, model it, then apply textures and landscapes. It's very valuable for us to come to Laguna Seca.
We knew from pictures how the turns here would bank, but now we can walk and drive them so we can put their exact feel in the game. In Gran Turismo 2, unlike other racing games, it's not important to just go fast. Sometimes speed is not as much a factor as skill. Slowing down can be the most important thing.
I have a driving school, and Yamauchi-san was one of my students. I didn't know he was the producer of Gran Turismo. The things he was learning in my school, he put into the game's driving license test. How to accelerate, how to brake, how to turn the corner. If you want to enjoy Gran Turismo 2 the most, do not think of it as a video game. Drive as if you're in a real car. Drive at the highest level possible for you, and the game will teach you and raise you to a new level of enjoyment.
Laguna Seca has a famous corner called the Corkscrew. I've known about it ever since I was a kid, but growing up in Japan, I never thought I'd see it with my own eyes. The day before yesterday, I drove around it and the whole course in a Viper. I thought to myself, this is my dream come true.
The company started with 4 employees and now has well over 70. Great efforts were made to develop an automotive feel for the workplace where the game gets made. An essential ingredient is cultivating an environment that accommodates the creative and time-consuming needs of video game design and development.
Just to explain, each title takes roughly 2 years to develop. And the last 6 months within these 2 years is quite hectic. So many of our staff spend a lot of their time here at the studio. Therefore, I felt that the office or working space should be as comfortable, if not even more comfortable, than being at home. This comfortableness is the biggest concept of Polyphony Digital's development studios.
The company's name Polyphony describes a workplace philosophy that listens to and mixes together many voices, from the programmers and designers to the artists and data collectors.
The team members often share conversations with Kazunori and other team members, not in official meetings, but just normal day-to-day conversations. They often share opinions on which locations they agree on and what cars and course designs they like. My staff and I made sure everyone was comfortable with how they were going to approach and tackle this. before they actually started building each of the courses. Now, all the team members share the same mindset. They've come to the stage where all the course design members will be able to pick out which areas are not working and which areas are good.
The concept of balance coincides with the idea that any great advancement is made up of a series of small improvements.
In the past, in the process of collecting data, because these courses are in-game, they had the allowance of measurements being slightly out of scale. But this time around, they made sure every measurement was exact. And so, in terms of accuracy, the team has made many improvements in the courses. This has led to a sort of a snowball effect where the team has continued to work on small improvements of the graphics engine, which taken all together, at the end of the day, has built up into a big revolution. Even when everyone's exhausted, being able to share these discoveries with the whole team is like magic. And that's what I love most about my job.
Obviously, I've always dreamed of becoming a race car driver. However, when I look at the bigger picture, what I do now is great. The experience I get out of doing what I do and still working very closely with cars is a dream job. The photo shoot and the data collection are an important part of the creation process. The reason we collect data is not because without it we couldn't make the game. Rather, it's more to confirm the accuracy of the car we made in the studio, so we don't apply the real data directly to the game. For the photo shoot of the cars, we take a large selection of pictures, shots from 4 basic angles, diagonal shots, and others. We also do sound recordings of the actual cars.
This is the area for taking photographs of the cars. My job is to shoot the beauty shots from many angles. I also manage the other photographers who also take photos. Additionally, when the 3D models of the cars are constructed, these photos are used as references and are also used to provide textures.
Using all types of technology, the team will measure virtually every nook and cranny of every turn, building, and bump down to the millimeter. All of these precise measurements go hand in hand with how the car drives. The physics engine of Gran Turismo 4 has been totally redesigned to create one of the most realistic driving experiences ever offered in a gaming console.
In addition, we choose several of the cars and gather data. We measure the car's maximum speeds, record gravity forces, and assess their cornering abilities.
Actual race car drivers are enlisted to provide information on driving, especially the more elusive feel of a course.
I'd like to think that I can bring some extra insight to the game, where the feel of real driving translates. You know, I just love playing, and hopefully I can give good input to the guys that develop the game, then they'll make sense to the actual person playing it in the end.
I'm going to evaluate the product from a race car driver's perspective. There's so much depth in real-life racing. There's communication between the cars, communication between the driver and the car, and all that. So you really need someone who's experienced that in real life to translate it to the game.
Gran Turismo is awesome. I mean, a lot of drivers use it to learn tracks before they go. Everything from, what gear they should be in a certain turn, or what exit speed they can expect when they get there. It just gives me, a better feel of what it's like to drive a road race car.
The automakers are realizing the importance of the marketing, the branding that they get within the games. Young enthusiasts are getting an opportunity today to actually drive some of the cars that the American public really came to know more through the Gran Turismo series than from seeing rally races in person or even viewing them on TV.
First of all, I'm happy that we were able to work closely with car manufacturers and with pro race car drivers. At the same time, there's an increased risk that I'll forget the feeling I had when I originally created Gran Turismo, namely the sense of just another car owner with the enthusiastic emotions that users feel toward their cars. When I released the first of the series back in 1997, there were 2 aspects to the game. One was the actual driving, and the other had to do with watching the game with the replay mode. Photo mode adds another element to the enjoyment of watching Gran Turismo.
Imagine traveling to 66 locations around the globe and directing your own photo shoot with any of the cars included in GT4. And these aren't just snapshots. The virtual camera and film you'll be using will have plenty of options and settings to get the perfect picture.
Personally, I love cars, but I also love photography. Including a photo mode was actually part of my dream for the GT franchise. I wanted to make sure the player could use a professional approach with the photo mode. Players can change the lens and filters of the camera, adjust the depth of field, and create motion blur. they can also change film stock to get that special touch. I wanted to allow for all the possibilities that are available in real photography for the GT photo mode.
After you found all the right settings and clicked off some awesome photos, you can save them to the memory card in your PlayStation 2. Then try a slideshow on your TV, or print out a color copy on a USB printer. With this new feature, GT4 continues to espouse the concept that there is much to enjoy about cars besides driving.
Polyphony Digital has always had the idea that once we got the cars right, the next goal would be to improve the people you see in the game. We've been researching this for a long time. For Gran Turismo 4, we've used the physics engine to attempt a new technique for the animation of human movement. For example, previously, convertible cars were driven with the top closed. That was because we were not technically able to show the driver operating inside the car. In this version, the convertible cars will have a recognizable driver. Also, there are spectators beside the course. Before, they were like billboards.
Gran
Turismo, the franchise, has been a combination of two main factors. One was the actual driving that players experienced, and one was the replays that the game provides immediately after each race, both of which are exciting, great fun, and very nice to look at. And there were many people who play a certain race with a certain car just because they want to see the replay. With GTTV, players don't have to worry about driving the car. They could be eating something or relaxing and still watch their own creation being driven by someone else on a live TV broadcast or replay. Or they could just drive the car themselves. Although Gran Turismo is a driving simulator that requires driving skill, we wanted to create a game which could be enjoyed by people around the world who like the cars but don't have the driving skills.
If your idea of excitement includes ogling some of the great cars of the past, GT4 will include a museum feature where you can scope out some of the classics.
If you want to see the classic cars of today, oftentimes you have to go to a museum exhibition. So, I thought it only natural to have a museum in the game for classic cars.
Cars naturally have charm, and cars and driving are enjoyable as they are. So we concentrate on reproducing them without adding anything. That's probably the key characteristic of Gran Turismo, keeping everything realistic.
For Kazunori's team at Polyphony, who created Prologue, today's a chance to have fun and learn more about the balance and handling of a real car.
Today, our team will conduct some research into how stability control systems work in real cars. But I'll just be happy if at the end of the day, the experience rekindles the team's motivation to create driving games.
その素晴らしさということに気づくんですね。
For everyone today, these driving tests, just like in the game Prologue, are really important in learning about the pure physics of a car and how to control it when you're driving on the edge.
It's impossible to drive fast on a track without experience, so a driver has to study the art of driving bit by bit. First, you must understand the mechanics of how a car works, and then you can synchronize your feeling of what the car is doing to its physics. The most important thing is for your driving to be smooth, effortless, and accurate.
When the driver approaches this slippery zone, there is a metal plate which is built into the ground. There are sensors which measure the car's approaching speed. Roughly about 40 kilometers per hour is the curriculum. And once the car drives over the plate jolts, throws you into a spin, and the driver objective is to try to avoid spinning out.
On the public road, a skid is often the beginning of an accident and something to avoid. Whereas on a racetrack, whether you're a novice making mistakes or an expert driving on the limit, skids and slides are all part of it. The important thing is to learn how to deal with a skid, whether it's the rear of the car sliding in oversteer or the front of the car losing grip and understeering. And the best way to learn this is on a skid pan, where there's plenty of space for mistakes. The more you practice controlling your car in a skid, the better prepared you'll be for the racetrack, and hopefully catching a slide will become second nature. At first, you'll do lots of spinning, but once you've mastered the technique, being able to slide a car under perfect control is more than a useful skill. It's one of the best feelings ever.